So we're going to do just a quick review of the Giant Power 45 litre fridge freezer. Now the fridge freezer has two compartments, you can see here. We'll pop her open. Now it's either a fridge or a freezer, it's not a dual zone. Albeit that it does look like it's set up like a dual zone, but it's not. I'll just get these latches open. There's your latches, nice and solid, as you can see there. Typical esky or fridge latches. They are spring loaded, so they do pop back down, which is nice. You'll see it's got this almost like a checker plate finish, which is an absolute fingerprint magnet, but most of the time you're going to have your cover on anyway. Point to note is that they do come with a cover as standard, as part of the purchase price. Plastic handles, not sure how I feel about those. They certainly feel sturdy enough for using as tie down points, but we'll see how those go. Now up the top here we've got a good seal, nice thick seal, so hopefully that will manage to keep the cool in. And as you'll see, there's your two compartments. Typically this is in your dual zones. This would be your freezer compartment and this would be your fridge. All up is 45 litres. This is approximately 35 and this is about 10. Now you do have the baskets as well that sit in there. Now that's not a bad thing, having these baskets in. When you take those out, you'll see that this lining is similar to some of the other ones. It's almost like a foil, like a light aluminium or something. I'm not sure what it's actually made out of, but it is the metal, and that would dent fairly easily, I would imagine, where some of the other ones, definitely the Wacos I think it are, have like they're plastic moulded, like this sort of material all the way around and inside. I think I would prefer that, because definitely by using these baskets you're losing a little bit of space. You can see that that sits off the bottom almost enough for me to get my finger under. That could be a good thing from a cooling perspective, obviously, because everything's in here, the air will be able to circulate, so we'll see what that means real well. But for now I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't sort of a moulded inside. Obviously I was aware of that before I made the purchase, but you know, I was concerned about the space. I was considering a 60 odd litre, but typically it's normally just me that goes camping, myself and the dog. If I have a girlfriend or something going along, then I've got the 60 litre rescue sitting here, or a couple of smaller rescues for drinks and the like, and this can just be used for food. Fairly thick construction, as you can see here. Made of poly, and they do list them as a poly construction, which is similar to your construction of these eskies. You can see the thickness here. That's probably what, a couple of inches, give or take. Go across there. So these are quite a bit thicker, but obviously these are going to have the piping and stuff for the cooling in the inside. Now that's a 60 litre esky. You can get an idea of the drinks in there, probably the size. We'll just grab one of those out. So you're not fitting any upright cans, I don't believe. Oh, okay, you are. You can fit an upright can in that section there. But that gives you an idea there. You're probably getting, see if you can get 3 across. Okay, so you're not quite getting 3 across. It's obviously empty. So you're not getting 3 across, so you're probably going to get, say, maybe 10, maybe 12 up there, if you're lucky. There's a can in the bottom, give you an idea of size there. And we've got a 2 litre drink bottle, if we can get it to stand up. 2 litre drink bottle. So there's a reasonable amount of size there. Pop all your drinks and stuff up here. Stuff you want to keep colder, I guess, on the bottom. Now the fridge does work, does say down to a -15, and that's at 32 degrees ambient. It's about 23 kilos unladen, and picking it up I can probably agree with that. I have lifted it up on my own, it's not an issue. Obviously bent knees, all that, proper technique. You won't be throwing it around once it's loaded up, but unladen, yeah, it's an easy pick up and move around. You can see from the size comparison there, there's the 60 litre esky on the right hand side. We all know that these poly ones you know, the Technice and all that sort of constructed type ones, which this is very similar. They're fairly thick, so they are a larger esky anyway. But that's, so it's probably even larger than a 60 litre esky. So that gives you size. I think this old beater here is around about a 30-35. So that's almost an equivalent size esky, but obviously that's in the fridge. Okay, so here's our test setup inside. What we've got is a 12 volt power supply, 22 amp, so it's more than enough to cover this. This is something I typically use for my amateur radio. We've got a watt meter here, which is going to tell us what sort of power the fridge is drawing. And we've got it plugged into the 12 volt down here, which I just chopped and put this meter in line. So I'm actually probably going to grab another one of these and mount that permanently. So what we're going to do is just a cool down test. So ambient is 19 degrees, you can see down the bottom here, so it's not a particularly warm day. Obviously we're inside as well. What we're going to do is set this to minus 15 and we'll see how long it takes to get down to there. Should have no issues with the differential between 9 and a minus 15. Considering spec says it can get down to minus 15 at 32 degrees Celsius outside. I have done a test down to around about the same, from the same temp, around about 18 degrees it was, down to minus 5, and it got to go. So we'll run this test and we'll see what we get. So we'll switch it on, we'll get it started, and once we do that we'll start the timer on the phone. So we've started, switched her on. Let's have a look at what it seems to think that the outside temperature is. Okay, so it's saying 19 as well. And to set that, we just hit the set button, starts to flash, and we'll go down to minus 15, which is and we'll go lower than that. I'll get down to minus 19, but let's go 15. As per the specs, we're getting 13.3 volts. We'll set that, and we'll see how long she takes. You can see there she's drawing about 2.5 amps. Now the most I've actually seen this when I was doing the other test at down to minus 5 degrees was about the same, 2.5, 2.6. So on the cool down I haven't seen much more than that. It will be interesting to get the see if it's any different on the battery. But obviously, you know, if you're using these properly, you're not doing the cool down. You know, you're sticking these on 240 volt at home. You're doing the cool down, and then it's pretty much just got to maintain temperature. So the amp draw should be even lower. It does suggest that it's around about 3. I think it was about 3.5. Getting it down to minus 15. But obviously, I'm not seeing anything near that draw. Again, this has got a really good voltage to it at the moment, so that could be making the difference. It doesn't need quite the amps going through it. So we'll see what it's like at 12.8 on a live battery, but keeping it at 0 degrees or using it as a fridge only, it's meant to only draw 1 amp. So we'll check that out. We'll also have a look at the duty cycle, see how often it switches on, etc. over an hour, and see how that goes. I have had it on for about 24 hours previously. Ran no problems. It is really quiet. It's got the compressor on at the moment. Now this is on normal mode. You can pump it up to just high mode, I guess they call it, and that switches the fan on permanently. We're only at about 2.5 minutes, and we've already dropped a couple of degrees. So she's working well. Okay, so we just hit 13 minutes. So we're on 2.5 amps, nearly 2.6, down to 12 degrees thus far. We've just hit, just gone to minus 2, and we're at 26 minutes. So it's taken us probably about 25 minutes to get under 0 degrees from 19. Still sticking around that 2.5 amps draw. We're just about to hit the half hour. 2.5 amps again, give or take. And we've just hit our minus 5 degrees. So that'll be well and truly sufficient for you start to load your drinks up, if you're just going to use this as a fridge. Keeping in mind we do have one single can of Pepsi that's just ambient temperature, so it was just sitting outside in the esky, but there was no ice in it, so we'll enjoy that later on. Okay, so half an hour to minus 5 degrees from 19 degrees. Okay, so we've just hit -10 and we're at about 38 minutes. Still under that around that 2.5 amp draw. Once you get down to about that -5 or so, or even just under the 0 degrees Celsius, the temperature drop seems to get more and more rapid, so it seems to get a little bit quicker and seems to accelerate. So it took about half an hour to get down to the -5, and it looks like it might take about another maybe 15 minutes or so to get down to the -15. On their website they do a comparison with some other popular makes and models, etc., and I think they had it around about the 40 minutes, so we're going to go pretty close to that, I think. Okay, so there we go, we've just hit the 15 degrees and we'll stop that. So about 48 minutes, and you'll see once she stops, it goes back to a 0 amp current draw. So 48 minutes, keep in mind we did have that can of drink, so that might have made a marginal difference, but not too bad. So from 19 degrees down to -15, so what's that, about minus sort of 35 degree temperature drop in 48 minutes. So not too bad, so that's pretty quick, all things told. So here's your panel. So what I'm going to do is, you've got a set button over on the left, up and down for obviously controlling your temperatures, etc. Just going to hit the set button, and we're just going to go up to 0 degrees. It's going to be a while before that compressor pops on again. Just hit the set button, leave it as is. Now, one other thing I was slightly concerned about, and some of the forums I was reading certainly raised concerns about the low battery cutoff, the low voltage cutoff. Depending on what you read, the website and the manual certainly seem to differ, and certainly different websites you look at who might be selling it. So the specs seem to vary anywhere from about 2.5 up to about 10.5 up to about 10.8 with a cutoff. Now the concerns were that that was too low. But if you actually have a look at the manual, which is, now I thought these were Australian made, but the manual is certainly written in Chinglish, so it's some of the terms and phrases are used are not good English, and sometimes difficult to read, difficult to understand. But for all intensive purposes, we can hold down the set button, and you'll actually get, not sure whether you're seeing that up in the top left hand corner. There you go, you can see that flashing. There's your voltage there of the battery, or your input. If you hold that down, you'll see that starts to flash, and you can actually change the low voltage cutoff. So that's good news. So for those people looking at that and saying, oh look, 10.8, 10.5 or thereabouts is too low for a battery to be drawn down, you can actually have a low voltage cutoff. So that's good news. The other thing you can do is hold in this button here on the right hand side. Now, I'm not sure if you can see the little, there is a little snowflake that comes up there which puts it into high mode, which supposedly keeps the fan on permanently, but again obviously written in Chinglish, not entirely confident in that one. I'll just hold that down again. Okay, so we've got rid of that, and there we go. So we're going to let it come back up to temp, just so it doesn't freeze that can of Pepsi that I got in there, and we'll do some more tests on a battery soon.